Well, I don't know how this audio is going to turn out. I picked the windiest day of the whole summer. Well, it's fall now, to film, but shout out to New York Prepper. He gave me the idea to do a Bigfoot story by the campfire. So we're out at South Central location here, South Central Alaska, by the beach, and it is windy. We have hurricane force gusts that sometimes hitting the trees, and it's pretty crazy for some people's roofs. It could blow their roof right off their house, which has happened here. But I wanted to talk about Bigfoot. Well, puppy wants down. I wanted to talk about, see, he's scared about that. Here's him's leash. Small? No. Here you go. Sorry. I wanted to talk about the paranormal aspect of Bigfoot, but there's two different parts. First of all, he's the greatest hide and seek expert to ever live. We haven't found physical evidence of Bigfoot besides secondary photographs and tracks. We have not captured a Sasquatch. There are two possibilities. One, and I'm going to talk about the metaphysical aspect of Bigfoot. One possibility is Bigfoot is a spiritual creature, and we'll talk about that. The other possibility is Bigfoot is an animal that is able to travel between different dimensional planes. I think both of those are a possibility. And shout out to Joe Morrell. He's been begging me for years to do videos on this subject. I did one, but we're going to talk about it a little further tonight. So, first of all, when you talk about Bigfoot being a spiritual creature, I do think there are some Bigfoots that are flesh and blood. Absolutely, they're a hominid, ape-like, human-like hybrid animal that lives in the forests of Northern California, and they're just hiding, and they're extremely intelligent. They hide the bones of their dead. They carry clubs, they knock trees, they throw rocks, and they're too smart for humans to capture. They know about cameras, they know about humans. And that's, a lot of researchers have noticed that too, that Bigfoot knows about cameras and humans and that kind of thing. So I think that Bigfoot could be a purely spiritual creature. What I think is more plausible, it is a flesh and blood creature with spiritual aspects, and can turn into the ether, if you will. A spiritual creature has the ability to transform or just kind of evaporate. So many reports have been of Bigfoot sightings where people say it just slowly vanished. We also have a lot of sightings. There was even a military sighting that I investigated once where Sasquatch was spotted, and then they followed some tracks, and then the tracks just stopped suddenly in the snow as if it disappeared. And I'd say maybe a 5% of Bigfoot sightings, there's some high strangeness, weird element like that. So it's very odd, and I don't know how to explain it. So we're going to talk about a few aspects of that, but it's pretty interesting. Hey, how's it going? So like I said, it could be a spiritual creature, but I think it's a combination of flesh and blood and a spiritual creature. And the reason I believe that is because how steeped Bigfoot Sasquatch is in so many Native American indigenous tribes in North America. It's hard to find a tribe that doesn't know about a hairy man, a Bigfoot-like creature. There's dozens and dozens of different names for it. Even here in Alaska, almost every tribe knows about a Sasquatch creature. And when you get to southeast Alaska, Juneau, Sitka, Ketchikan, the tribes are very connected to the creature, and they even have more information that they don't share to the public. So that's one reason I believe that it's got a spiritual element to it. I do believe it's flesh and blood. I do like the idea of Bigfoot traveling through wormholes, through gateways into another dimension, another world. One of the stories that I love is Louis L'Amour's, the last book he wrote, The Haunted Mesa. I lived in Santa Fe. I went to school there. He talked about Santa Fe. The main character went there. Louis L'Amour started spending time with different tribal members. I think he had inside information about Sasquatch because in his books, he talked about this big, giant, hairy Sasquatch-like creature that would go through these kiva doors that were gateways to a big rainforest world. And that was part of the book and the story, but I think Louis L'Amour, before he died, was trying to tell us something about the Sasquatch able to go back and forth between these worlds. Let's check in with Rob Roy Menzies and see what he thinks about this topic. So along with Bigfoot stories, we have stories of high strangeness, and it's probably maybe 5% of the stories where a Bigfoot will be walking toward the tree line and then just vanish in thin air. Have you heard stories like that, and do you think there is an element of high strangeness where they may be coming from a different dimension or something?
Well, personally, I have not. I've heard the one story I did hear, a gentleman on the snow machines. He was interviewed. You can see him on the Small Town Monsters. I think he's on the Last Frontier, one of the Small Town Monster Alaska productions. The gentleman and his wife on a snow machine. They had one tree peaking and following them on a snow machine. And they were both here, and I got to talk to him before the Small Town Monsters interviewed him. And what was odd was the guy said, well, when he started seeing this thing, there's something about the sky turned a different shade of blue.
Wow.
And I'm not sure what he meant by that.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Did it really change, or did this Alaska weather just change? And like it does, and something happened. But he seems to indicate that something, like, just weird. The whole atmosphere changed. The colors of the sky changed. I don't know. And we all know about the, well, I hate to call it the woo factor, but, maybe there are some paranormal elements to these things. I personally tend to think that they're flesh and blood. With my experience out at Area A, I just tend to think that they're just something we haven't discovered yet. And but it is fun to think about. It is fun to think about, and I'm open to listen to people's experiences.
Right.
There have been, I've heard a few. I don't really want to talk about the one I just recently heard because that's guys on a different show, and I don't want to spoil that and all that. But anyway. Bigfoot and paranormal. I have not experienced it. So I don't know. I like to listen to the stories though. So
right.
I'm here. I'm open. Tell them, give it to me. Let me hear it.
Me too. So there you have it. I'm going to have other videos on this subject, but when you talk about Bigfoot, I do think, not all the time, I think there are some sections of Bigfoot areas where it's just a cryptid animal living there, flesh and blood. And then I think there's other areas where it's steeped in these mystical traditions and it's able to travel from one world to another. And that's why we get multiple sightings of Bigfoot disappearing, the tracks disappearing, slowly fading from existence in front of an eyewitness's eyes, things like that. So keep tuning in. I'm going to have another cryptid, high strangeness, Bigfoot video every Sunday. Thanks for tuning in, guys.